Save big during Labor Day at Lowe's. Get up to 40% off select major appliances. Plus, buy more to get up to an additional 20% off. Shop even more savings with 3 Stay Green 1 cubic foot vegetable and flower garden soil bags for $10. This Labor Day, take care of your home for less at Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 9/3. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. Select locations only. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
American 6s, 6 millimeters. I really like 6 millimeter or 243 caliber. And I hope after this episode you will as well. Welcome to Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, ballistics, the right way, with Almighty God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. I'm not going to go through all that experience. There should be some cliff notes in the show notes. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and fingers for battle. The 6 millimeter. I am going to start with my favorite, the 243 Winchester. Now, a long time ago when I moved to the Mountain West and took a hiatus from hunting a little bit during my time in the Marine Corps, during my time in L.A.P.D, as you might imagine, not a lot of places to hunt around there, although I did do a little bit of coyote hunting and stuff. But when I really moved to the Wild West, the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana area, and I wanted to get into it. I wasn't exactly flush with cash. I saw at a local Walmart a youth model 243. No, I had a 308. I had a very accurate kind of varmint target barrel 308. It was a very good gun, very accurate. One of the guns I kind of wish I hadn't sold. But that's not very well suited when I started getting out and hiking in rugged, remote wilderness areas, which is how I like to hunt, spot and stalk and still hunting. And I saw on that Walmart shelf a youth model Remington 700 243. I forget how much I paid for it, but it was a bargain, even way back then. And I bought it. And I'm going to be honest with you. It's not a very pretty gun. It's not very accurate. I know plenty of 243s are. Mine is not. It's never been very accurate. But it shoots a couple of MOA, and I've used it to take probably more deer and elk than any other caliber. Used it guiding some. When I was a professional big game hunter and guide, I was surprised that the most popular caliber, period, that was there was 243. Now, I carried other things as a guide rifle, a 6.5 Creedmoor, and a light handy mountain type rifle, but the most common caliber among the guides was 243. I think sometimes we carried other stuff, right? If we're going on a buffalo hunt or something, we might carry something bigger, but for all manner of deer-sized game, not just whitetail, I'm talking whitetail, mule deer, fallow deer, axis deer, Sitka deer, 243 is just a phenomenal cartridge. And here's where it crosses over. On the ranch, we would lose some due to predation. For a predator cartridge, it's amazing. For wolf, yeah, I've taken wolf with it. It's certainly, I think not many would argue that it's one of the best coyote cartridges. It's a phenomenal cartridge. Let's go to my Hornady reloading manual, because it's what I have in front of me or next to me, and let's read a little bit about the 243. Now, this is not gospel. This is Hornady Reloading Manual, and it's a very old one. The 243, a 6mm cartridge neck down from 308 case, was introduced by Winchester in 1955. Versatility and accuracy of the 243 Winchester soon gained its popularity unsurpassed by any other round in its class. Much of the original acclaim about the all-around capabilities of the 243 can be credited to the late Warren Page, shooting editor of Field and Stream magazine. Now, this is me interjecting here. You can, with a 243, what makes it so versatile is you can shoot 55 grain up to 100 grain, and it'll do it all well. And my favorite load in yesteryear for deer was 85 grain Sierra Game King that I hand-loaded over some varget. It was an amazing performer on deer size game, even very large deer size game. And I even took a couple of elk with it. saying it's the best elk caliber, and you really have to be patient with your shots and wait for a broadside shot, and a lot of caveats. If you're just going to shoot at a big elk because you see it, this is not the cartridge for you. I'm not saying it's even a good elk cartridge, but it's an adequate elk cartridge. It's a full-powered rifle round. And again, very, very good for deer size game. And where it shines is it's a great varmint cartridge. So if you're going for varmint up to deer, 243 is legit. It's one of the best. It's a phenomenal cartridge. So 55 grain up to 100 grain. This reloading manual, it lists a 58 grain here at 3,800 feet a second. That's cooking. And it lists a 75 grain at 3,400. And let's see, how high do we go here? It lists a 100 grain at 3,000. Actually, it goes up to 105 grain, although those aren't very common. It also lists that at $3,000. But 100 grain at 3,000 feet a second, that's a full-powered rifle round. That's not a little bit more than a 223. It's a full-powered rifle round. It's a little bit less bullet weight than your traditional 150 grain 308, but again, plenty for deer. It's a very high velocity, very long point blank range. It is a phenomenal deer round and varmint round. It's a great low recoil round, which makes it great for youth shooting, but I think that kind of hurts it I think men have this thing of like, oh, bigger is better. Tim the Toolman Taylor supersized me. If an F-150 is better, an F-350 is way better. Not always. If all you need is an F-150, right? You don't need an F-350 to haul your, monthly supplies from Costco. It's just, if you need an F-350, then get one. But a 243, I think, if I'm making sense here, because it is such a good low recoil youth cartridge, woman's cartridge, that a lot of men think, oh, it's less than for deer, but it's phenomenal for deer. I don't think it's less than. I think it's one of the best deer calibers on planet Earth. Period. End of sentence. Now let's look at another cartridge, the 6mm Remington. Now this was also Remington, introduced by Remington in 1963. This is coming from the Hornady Reloading Manual again, to replace the original 1955 version, the 244 Remington. So let's talk about that first. The 244 Remington, and then later the 6mm Remington. I do believe, I don't see it in here. Oh, it is in here. Based on the 7x57 Mauser, which kind of in its own right makes it cool, because we don't have a lot of Wildcats based on the European cartridges here. We generally Wildcat our own cartridges. So it's pretty cool that it's based on a 7x57. Now, this kind of lost back in the day. There was a kind of a big rivalry between the 6mm Remington and the 243. And much like many rounds, it didn't lose out because it wasn't a great round ballistically. It lost out to some other reasons. Perhaps marketing, perhaps because Remington gave it too slow of a twist rate, a 1 in 12. Remington was really bad for this back in the day. I don't know if they fixed it or not, but they used to just kind of spin everything 1 in 12. 308, 1 in 12. 6mm Remington, 1 in 12. But 1 in 12 is not generally suitable for the heavier bullets you want to shoot. So if people wanted a crossover deer cartridge, they saw 243 as a superior round, even though you actually got more power out of the 6mm Remington. So here, if we look, we get a 75 grain bullet at 3,400 feet a second. It's no slouch. It does have a little bit more powder capacity. And I don't know how high we go here in the Hornady Reloading Manual. We're going to 100 grain at 3,000. So pretty much identical to the 243, at least in this manual for reloading data, but I do believe it actually has a little bit more powder capacity. So I think in some manuals you can get a little bit more power out of the 6mm Remington. Kind of a shame that marketing or twist rate or whatever kills it. It is a very good round. And if you are looking for a round in this class and you are a reloader, if you were buying factory ammo, I would say really stick with the 243. But if you're a reloader and you see a good deal on a 6mm Remington, there is nothing wrong with a 6mm Remington. Next, we're going to move up to the hot rod. the most powerful 6mm I am aware of in existence. There may be something by like Lazzaroni or something. I don't have that data in front of me. But the 240 Weatherby Magnum, it says right here in the reloading manual, most powerful of all the factory loaded 6mm commercially available. It has enough added powder capacity to drive a 100 grain spire point at a velocity 300 feet per second faster than either the 243 or the 6mm Remington. In size, the 240 case head is the same as this 30-06 and has nearly identical powder capacity. So imagine, this is me interjecting, imagine a 30-06 neck down to 6mm, which is quite a bit of necking down, and then with a belt. So you get a belted Magnum. That's pretty cool. This manual lists a 58 grain bullet at 3,900 feet a second. And if we look at a 75 grain, which is not an unpopular grain weight, 3,500 feet a second. And if we look at, let's see here, we go to a 100 grain bullet at 3,200 feet per second. Again, it's the hot rod. It's the big boy. The 243 I consider a full-powered rifle round, not an intermediate. It's a full-powered rifle round, right? It's a neck-down 308. This is kind of quasi, probably not properly, but a neck-down 30-06. It's a hot rod of a cartridge. If you were looking for max velocity on deer-sized game, if you still ascribe to the max point-blank range hunting philosophy, which I generally do, 240 Weatherby is legit. Now, you're going to give up, you're going to have more recoil. You're going to get more recoil than you would out of a 243. So if you want a very low recoiling round, 243 is probably still your best bet. If you want a hot rod, flat shooting 6mm, launching 100-ish grain bullets or less, this might be your one, right? The other thing you're going to give up is barrel life. So you're going to get quite a bit less barrel life. Now, if it's just hunting, not for target shooting, you probably aren't going to wear out your barrel, let's be honest. But it's a phenomenal cartridge. I would suggest, unless you just have a lot of money, be a hand loader, because Weatherby ammunition is not cheap. But it's very good. So again, there's a trade-off there. For general purpose hunting, 243. If you want a max point blank range hot rod 6mm, 240 Weatherby is an amazing cartridge. Now let's go to a round that is much newer. It is going to be, so no, it's not in my reloading manual, so I'll probably look it up on Wikipedia to give credit where it's due. But this is the 6mm Creedmoor. Now, as soon as you say Creedmoor, some people cringe, but nothing wrong with this with a Creedmoor. You might think, 6mm Creedmoor, it's going to be more powerful than the 243. It is not. It's going to have less powder capacity, much like the 6.5 Creedmoor is no more powerful than the 260 Remington that it kind of replaced. Much like the 6.5 Creedmoor, it's based on the 30 Thompson center case, which is shorter and smaller than a 308. But that shorter case lets you load longer bullets and remain in the short action realm. So this really doesn't make a lot of sense unless you want to shoot the longer, heavier bullets, longer than 100 grain. And you could do that in a custom build in a 243. And there's no worries with that. But a turnkey solution, just buying the gun and ammo off the shelf, if you want to shoot heavier bullets in a 6mm, then you might look at the 6Creedmoor. And actually, the Wikipedia doesn't even have an entry for 6mm Creedmoor. It is just a wildcatted version on the Wikipedia page, which I know it's not anymore. It's a factory-loaded round. So I don't want to rip off somebody else's work like I see some other podcast people talking about 6Creedmoor, but kind of to reiterate what I said, it's not more powerful than a 243, but it lends itself better if you want to shoot heavier bullets. Where this has really caught on is long range, not max point blank ranging, but fidget spinners for men, where you get a giant rifle and a giant scope and whistles, and you don't just have a rifle and a scope and a sling. You have a rifle and a scope and a sling and a giant scope and a bunch of turn dial knobs on the scope and a laser rangefinder and a big heavy bipod, maybe a tripod. Maybe a quick detach mount, maybe a side-by-side to ride around on because your rifle is now so heavy you don't want to hike with it. But if that's what you're into, it can be very effective. And if that's what you're into, you're going to gravitate more towards a 6Creedmoor. If you're more of a old school spot and stalk hunter, max point blank range, 243 is a good round. If you really want to push it out and hot rod it, the 240 Weatherby. Now the last one we're going to talk about is the new kid on the block. I can't believe that 6Creedmoor doesn't have a page, but this one does. The 6mm ARC Advanced Rifle Cartridge. So you know that it's advanced. It must be more powerful, right? No, it's not. It's not even close to like a 243. This will be, from the Wikipedia page, it's an intermediate rifle cartridge. So all the ones I've heretofore mentioned are full-powered rifle cartridge. This is an intermediate rifle cartridge, introduced by Hornady in 2020. Low recoil, high accuracy, long-range cartridge, designed for use in the M16 and M4 platforms. So they say that. I would have said the AR-15. But if you're looking for a 6mm off-the-shelf in a AR pattern rifle, then 6-ARC is kind of your choice. Now, there's some cool Wildcats, one of my favorites, but I'm not going to talk about that here. It says here, parent case 220 Russian, which is in and of itself really cool, or the 6.5 Grendel, which is a good cartridge. And again, this is going to be for your longer, heavier bullets. So not if you're looking for high velocity, like 50-something grain varmint cartridges. The lowest 103 grain at 2,800, which is pretty respectable for such a little baby of a cartridge. It lists a 105 grain at 2,750 and 108 grain at 2,750. Now, for the average hunter, or unless you're doing extreme long range stuff, is there going to be much difference in 100 grain and 108 grain? No, not really. And a lot of those, be careful, like the 6 Creeds and this one, the ARC, a lot of those are going to be target bullets. Target bullets are made for targets. Game bullets are made for game. Sure, you can kill game with a target bullet. You can kill game with a full metal jacket. You can kill game with a rock or a stick. It doesn't make it the best tool for the job. So just keep that in mind. These were geared towards extreme long range shooting. Now, looking at the ballistics of that little guy, that also would be a very cool cartridge in a light handy mountain rifle. There'd be nothing wrong with it. Will it stick around? Will it be available in 3 or 4 years? I don't know. The 243 will almost certainly, as long as we have a gun manufacturing industry that's robust, we'll have 243. So really nothing has replaced the 243 as kind of your go-to easy hunting 6mm. But some of these other cartridges, again, do have a niche. Do you want it in an AR pattern? Go for the ARC. Do you want extreme power in a 6mm? Go for the 240 Weatherby. You just find a sweet deal on an old 6mm Remington and you hand load, it's a good cartridge. But kind of the thing I want to say in closing is, don't consider full-powered rifle rounds like... I hope that you would stop considering rounds like a 243 or a 6mm Remington less than for deer, like only a kid's cartridge. They are, again, I think some of the best deer cartridges, period. And that's not that you have to hunt with that, but I think they get pushed into that corner where, like, it can be somebody's very good first deer rifle, but then they think, oh, I've got to get something more powerful, but you don't. To use a truck analogy, we talked about the F-150. Your first truck could be you save up your first couple of jobs and you get an old 1990s Ford F-150. Now, you could get a different truck later if you want, but if you wanted to stick with that old 1990s, mid-90s Ford F-150 for the rest of your life, or a similar model, it'd probably do you just fine. Just some thoughts there on the 6mm. The 6mm are a good cartridge, a family, and I thought they were worth a discussion. I did one on the 8mm. I likely won't do one like this on the 7s or the 30s because it would just be rattling off cartridges in a list and it would be crazy long because there are so many. There's not nearly as many 6mm or especially 8mm. So I hope you enjoyed this cartridge talk on different 6mm. Don't be afraid to comment. Is 6mm the best? You a big fan of the 6mm, or do you think it's slightly better than a BB gun, not suitable for anything above a chipmunk? Let me hear your thoughts. Anyway, with that, guys, I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you do, and have a blessed day.